CME, welcome back. This is part two of Food for Thought. Okay, I told you guys I was going to read you the transcript from the Declaration of Independence. So let's hop right on in there, okay? So this is it says Unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. That was the title here. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So that means that they needed to list all the grievances that impelled them to the separation from Britain. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter excuse me, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, it evinces a design to reduce them under absolute disposition, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise. the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judicial powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. And this right here, guys, is what the Moors were the first people to give them the honor and the right to trade. Okay, this is where the Treaty of Peace and Friendship comes in at. So folks need to remember that. For imposing taxes on us without our consent. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of the trial by jury. For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. For suspending our legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the humblest terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and are at consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And this was signed by 58 signatures, and they named all of the colonies and the name of the people that were residing in those colonies at the time. So again, you know, in closing out this particular part 2, Team CME, you know, a battle is raging for the soul of America and ourselves. It is it is of critical importance to the survival of true freedom worldwide. We are poised on the brink of surrendering our values of individual responsibility and self-determination. Domestically, we exchange our privacy and personal autonomy for the commercial security of a cradle-to-grave society. Internationally, we abdicate our ability to act autonomously in our national interest. How and by whom are we being seduced into ceding that which we should treasure above all else, our most fundamental liberties? I don't understand. Finally, what actions can thoughtful people and citizens take to protect and regain our personal freedom? Quote, again, people willing to trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both. And that came from Benjamin Franklin. Let me read it again. People willing to trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both. Benjamin Franklin said that. And his real name was Benjamin Banneker Bay. Just so you know, or if you didn't know. You know, guys, these urgent questions present an intelligent and often alarming picture of our modern political discourse. You know, I told you guys the other day, I subscribe to none of that because of the very subject matter I'm speaking of here today. You know, as Moorish American individual on this land, I am throwing down the gauntlet in revealing truth and fearlessly exploring this modern plague of collectivism and the cynical manipulation of the truth regarding the people found here on this landmass prior to colonization. I have made the decision to take full responsibility with absolute pleasure. It's time. I think Katari and I were talking about that today. Our ancestors are waiting for us to get up off our knees. They suffered immensely so that we would be free to some degree as we enjoy today. You know, I refuse for my Grammy babies to come up in a world of dysfunction. I realize decisions have power. Decisions have force. They usually take you to the exact place you need to be, exactly the way you need to be there, or even to get there. It is the wavering back and forth that is dangerous, you know, because a double-minded person is unstable in his or her ways. The rightness of a decision is based on your ability to make the decision. Therefore, the freedom from deciding can only come after you have made the decision. We talked about this week. So the buck stops here and with you. All truth must be revealed in order for all to heal. That's all I wanted to share today, Team CME. I'm vibrating right now over here, and my hope and desire is for you to read and research some things. And I remind you that this is not a debate show. Don't believe anything I tell you. Research it for yourself. If it's true for you, then work with that. If it's not, then the message is not for you. Just leave it alone. Remember, Moors and others, we have the power of many with the spirit of one. None of us is as smart as all of us. Okay? So my mission on this show and in life is to shine the light on knowledge and for you to read more, learn more, absolutely love more. Peace and love, everybody. See you next. I think I'm going to do one more, maybe not, but I wanted to do the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is pretty short, and you guys can really go and do that for yourselves, okay? But this was just on my heart, and I wanted to get it to you. So I hope it resonated with some of you, and I'll see you guys next, okay? Peace and love, everybody. Bye.